Today on Season 2 of the Color Outside the Box podcast.
And a lot of girls think that, he's buying me things. He's giving me money. So he loves me. But love does not hurt. So he does not need to be putting his hand on you. And like you said, oftentimes the parents are unaware of it. Because when I called a parent to inform parents, no, I'm unaware of this. He did what? So they unaware of the situation that's going on.
Color Outside the Box is a podcast series that focuses on creating a better you. Whether it's advice about family, relationships, raising children in this technological world, marriage, or careers, we seek to find the answers to help you live your best life. So start your Monday morning off right with me, your hostess with the mostest, Princess Miller, on Color Outside the Box right here on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be heard. Well, good Monday morning, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Color Outside the Box podcast. I'm your hostess, Princess Miller, and today we are going to continue with Issues Kids Are Facing Part 2. And again, I have in the studio with me Miss Keirston Gaines. Good morning, Miss Keirston.
Good morning, Princess. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Man, last week's show was intense. I'm excited about where this week's show is going to go. We're going to talk about some issues that kids are facing today. Last week, we dealt with bullying. We dealt with poverty. We dealt with homelessness. We dealt with mental illness. But this week, and I think we dealt with drugs, but this week we're going to deal with domestic violence and molestation. So it's about to get real up in here. So, for those of you that don't know, Miss Keirston is a assistant principal at a school here in Mobile, Alabama, and she's worked in the school system for over 15 years.
Correct.
And she's also worked as a social worker, so she is well qualified to talk about the issues that we're going to talk about today. And let's take this first subtopic, domestic violence. It is, how can I say, surprising the amount of children that are in domestic violence relationships. Talk to us about some of the things that you have seen as it relates to that subject.
Well, there have been different situations where I have seen boys put their hands on their girlfriends. Like if the girls to speak or talk to another male student, for some reason he feel like he have a right to put his hands on her. Or even if she received a text message the day before, that night when they got home, and he finds out, he feel like it's his due responsibility to put his hands on her, like she deserves some type of punishment because someone else texted her, as if she is his property. And
it's amazing. You wouldn't think that children will be dealing with that, but I know I like to watch a lot of shows. You'll be surprised that a lot of this stuff starts as young as teenage, 15, 16, 17 years old, where, they're being abused to the point where they isolate them from their friends. They beat them. And in some instances, if their parents jump in, they jump on the mom and the daddy. And it's a lot that's going on that these kids are facing. You've seen where one particular kid had been abusing his girlfriend. And when you sat down with him and his family, you found out that it was something that he learned from his parents.
Right. A lot of times I do believe that domestic violence, it is a learned behavior. It's something that you saw go on, so it continues on with you and the next generation. But it was a situation, a young man put his hands on his girlfriend, and as a result, the parents were notified. Her parents were notified, his parents were notified, and we had to have a conference to deal with that because we wasn't going to allow that to take place within our school. Whereas I had a conference with the mom, she informed me that, his dad used to beat me. So from that day, I learned that child's father used to beat his mother. So that's all he saw in the household growing up. Therefore, that's the behavior that he displayed towards the woman that he feel with a child, the girl that he feel like he's in love with. So that cycle must be broken.
It does. It definitely needs to be broken. But how do we equate love with violence? How do we get to that? I mean, I know that, a lot of times it's stuff that they see on TV, but it is so alarming just scrolling through social media, and you're seeing young woman after young woman that has been killed by their boyfriend. Why? Because somebody smiled at them, somebody spoke to them, or they said that they wanted to get out of a relationship, and they were killed for that. You know, how do we equate love with violence? How do you put the two together?
Well,
from your opinion.
From my opinion, I'm always give you my opinion.
From the book of Keirston.
Right. I do think a lot of times the women that stay in domestic violent relationships, it's some type of underlying issue, something that they didn't get, whether it's a lack of love in the home from a parent, whether it be the mother or the father, some type of abandonment, something within them that they're lacking or missing to make them feel like no matter what this man is doing to me, I'm going to stay here. So self-esteem issues right there, lack of confidence right there. And I do believe that it stemmed from my mama. She loved us, and she instilled in us what's right and what's wrong. You wasn't going to be with anyone that put their hands on you. And a lot of times it's acceptable. A lot of times the kids, the girls, they witness that in the household. As such, the young man I was telling you about, he witnessed that in the household. So I do think it's learned behavior, and at some point it's also because of a lack of what they did not get when they were younger as a child.
It's very interesting. I never looked at it from that aspect of self-esteem. Well, I knew that it was a self-esteem issue, but I guess I never really equate what allowed that to go on. And it's so important that we talk about this, because a lot of times parents are totally unaware that their child is dealing with something like this until it's too late, you know, until they come home with a black eye, or, you know, until this person decides to, you know, do something drastic to their child. And then that's when it all comes out. I was watching a program late last night. I was up editing, and in this program, this young lady had 3 kids by 3 different men. And she was in her mid-20s. I think she was like 26. And this one particular guy, they said he had watched her for a long time, always tried to, you know, to be her boyfriend, but she didn't, you know, really give him the time of day. And finally she did. I guess after 2 of the relationships failed, she decided to give him a try. Although he loved her, he waited for her, he courted her. When he got with her, he beat her. And her parents had no idea. And in fact, it didn't even come out till they found the young lady dead in her tub, hog-tied. And she was pregnant with his child. And so I say that because it's real out here.
It is.
I mean, it's all over television. I was watching a program. Young lady had just graduated from high school. She was working at this fast food restaurant during the summer before she went to college, and she met an older gentleman who worked there as well. This guy's in his 30s. She's like 18, 19. They start a relationship. She goes off to college and decides, you know what? I don't want no 30-something-year-old man still working at a fast food restaurant. I want one of these intelligent, you know, young men that's got some goals and trying to do something. And she comes home and she tries to break up with him. And he wasn't having it. So he calls her over. And he says that he wants to apologize. But he ends up stabbing her. Killing her. And he barbecued her body. Yeah. He cut her body up in his tub, and he had 2 grills outside. People out looking for this young lady. He's like, I ain't seen her. And he was sitting out on his balcony at his apartment, barbecuing. And when it, you know, some neighbors like, man, what you barbecuing all that meat for? Oh, we got a church picnic coming up, and I'm barbecuing for the church picnic. After he barbecued her body, he drove her remains across town and dumped them in a dumpster. 18, 19 years old. He 30-something years old. Things like this is going on with our children. But we need to talk about these issues. We need to let our young girls know that they're beautiful. They're confident. You know, raise their self-esteem. our young men, teach them how to be young men so they won't get into situations like this. Domestic violence. You never would have thought that you would have to deal with that in high school. How often do you see situations like that?
Actually, quite often. Quite often. And a lot of girls think that, oh, he's buying me things. He's giving me money. So he loves me. But love does not hurt. So he does not need to be putting his hand on you. And like you said, oftentimes the parents are unaware of it. Because when I called a parent to inform parents, no, I'm unaware of this. He did what? So they unaware of the situation that's going on. It goes back to, I think the last time we talked, parents having conversation with their daughters, having conversations with their sons.
It's so much that I can't even imagine having your job. Number one, I couldn't do it. I'd probably be arrested within the first week. He did what? Let's go get him. But let's talk. Let's switch the subject because we talked about domestic violence. There are a lot of kids dealing with molestation, and it's from teachers, it's from parents, it's from family friends. It's a lot that they're dealing with. How do you see the signs? Tell us about the signs to let a parent know that my child is not right.
When your child's behavior changes, then that's a sign right there. If you used to have an outgoing child, and even if they wasn't outgoing, just talkative, they talk to you, and they starting to shut down, then to me that's a number one. That's a red flag right there. Why is my child acting differently? What's going on? Let me talk to my child and see what's going on with that child. So to me that's a flag right there as well. Sometimes they may confide in their friends. And tell their friends what's going on. Sometimes they may keep journals. And if they keep a journal, as a parent, may be tempted to go here and read their journal to see what's going on, because sometimes they feel like they may not have anyone to talk to. So they put all of their feelings in that journal.
I want to talk about, I'm going to switch the subject this time. We're still going to talk about molestation. But let's talk about parents who make wrong choices in relationships, and it affects their kids as it relates to molestation. Let's say mom meets a guy sweeps her off her feet. Within 3 months he moves in, and while mom is out working, this person is at home watching the kids. And you probably scrolled through social media and saw all of the children that are being molested or killed by a boyfriend of a mother. How do you stop situations like that? I mean, how do you deal with that when you have a child that comes to you and say, well, my mama boyfriend did this, that, and another to me?
Now, if you have a child to come to you with that strong allegation, we are mandatory reporters. So we have to report to DHR. So once we report that allegation to DHR, they'll start their investigation.
Do you find that parents believe the kids all the time when situations like that occur? Because a lot of times it seems like they've been so deceived by that significant other that they would rather believe the significant other than their own children.
Well, I'm going to step back down memory lane and go back down to my social work days. When I was a field worker, a social worker, I did a lot of home visits where moms would move boyfriends inside the homes with them. And oftentimes that mom would side with that boyfriend. And it would leave that child hurt and broken. This child telling you what happened when you left the house. Yet you refuse to believe them because you so in love with this man who may be on to the next woman in a few months, doing the same thing to somebody else's child. So
if a child comes to a parent with that allegation, what should that parent do?
Call the proper authorities.
And who are the proper authorities?
Mobile Police Department.
Okay. So they call the police and they start an investigation. Now,
more than likely, the police department will get the child advocate center involved.
Okay. So would the parent then take the child to a doctor to be checked out, or, because sometimes, like you said, they will believe that significant other before they believe their child, but sometimes they need to investigate and make sure that there's, if there's been evidence that, a sexual encounter has occurred, then they need to be, not only arrested and dealt with, but You need to believe your child. You need to